Big Ron Shaw here, the Earl of Upsets, telling you to watch my friends, Monte and the Pharaoh, on Long Island's #1 wrestling podcast show, and soon to be the world's #1 wrestling podcast show. That is going to be a big upset.
Welcome back to the Howard Stern of Pro Wrestling, Monte The Pharaoh on a Thursday night. Jimmy, how are you, buddy?
Good, man. Hanging in. What's up?
Hanging in.
Yeah.
We've got a big guest here, and I want to just cover something with you, Jimmy. I want to play this video real quick. I haven't really talked to you all week. You've been working all week, so
yeah.
Here, let me hit you with this. Tell me what you think.
Honestly, don't feel like I need to say anything, but no one is illegal on stolen land.
Yeah. Yep, that no talent motherfucker. Yep. I know,
Well, first of all, right, wait a minute. I know you don't like her music, but she's not no talented. I gotta call it like at least how I see it anyway.
She's no Ringo Starr. Get out of here.
Okay, she's not. No, but I will say this: the interesting part of the whole thing is she lives on stolen land and
Absolutely. Is she going to return
acres of property with a giant fence around it with 24-hour security.
And the tribe has pointed out that she has not reached out to them.
Are
you aware of that?
But this goes back to what we originally said shows ago. When you're an athlete, stay out of politics. When you're a movie star, stay out of politics.
Yeah.
It's like you now you really look like a fucking idiot, right?
Now? They've been doing this for a while. You know what? I got a ton of likes. I made a comment on one of Megyn Kelly's videos regarding this, and I said, I don't watch any movies currently. I don't watch listen to any current music. My life is just fine. Trust me. Cancel Hollywood immediately. Your life will go on. You will be fine. Think for yourself. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, boom, 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 hundreds of fucking likes. Okay? Because it's the truth. I really do live like that. I don't go to the movie theater. I don't care. They have turned me off so badly that I'm done. You guys have talked yourselves into me not giving two shits what you do with yourselves. I don't care anymore. And the music today stinks. And it's not because I'm dated. It's because the music that I loved was before my time. When John Lennon and Paul McCartney were putting pen to paper, they were the Beethoven of the last century. And yes, I'm going to compare. It's garbage in comparison. Then you get up there with your gated mansion and your property and you preach to you and me. Piss off. Go on.
Well, again, music, art, it's up to you, whatever. And I understand where you're coming from. At no point am I trying to compare it to the Beatles. But the fact of the matter is she's a talented young lady, but it's also, this goes back to the fact that we'll bring our guest on when you're someone in the public eye, okay, unless you're getting into politics. I mean, we've attacked Mick Foley, we've attacked Kevin Nash, and it has nothing to do with us being on one side and them on the other. It has to stop trying to use your influence. And then when you talk stupid like this, now you look like an idiot. And by the way, Jimmy, just in case anybody didn't know, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel.
There you go.
Get your Super Bowl bets in, basketball, baseball. We'll go over the odds later. But go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, and Mike, real quick, and to be fair, John Lennon used to say some stupid-ass political shit, too. It's like, imagine no possessions as he lives in the Dakotas. Get the hell out of here.
Or how about the
David
U.S.
Crosby was even worse.
But how about the U.S. stay out of Vietnam when you're from England, bro?
Right.
Come on now.
Right.
Anyway, I'm interested to hear what our star of the show here, Big John Christopher, feels about these comments. And John, again, if you're on the other side of the politics, it's all good, man. We're about free speech here.
I'm with you guys. Believe me. Yeah. I've lost a lot of fucking friends because of it too. But you know what? They're going to learn.
Yeah, Don Lemon is not hanging out with any of us anytime soon. I got you,
But
brother.
no, a matter of fact, I was in Mar-a-Lago the end of December, so that ought to tell you where I stand.
I hear you.
Mhm.
And by the way, there's been some, with Dom Lemon, it's like people like he's a reporter, everything else. No, basically, so people understand out there. There was a law put in place, I don't know, 27 years ago, 47 years ago, don't hold me to that math, but it was to protect the black Americans against the KKK. When the
Mhm.
KKK used to ravage churches that they were in.
Mhm.
And these people came into a church. That's why they're arrested. That is a law to protect people and your right to serve God, right, John?
Well, if you remember right, it wasn't what less than 10 years ago. Remember when the church got burned down in was it Georgia or West Virginia or somebody burned down a church and they got charged with the same thing because they attacked a religious holy ground. You know what I mean?
Right.
So why does he get different? Because he sucks a dick? I don't care.
Yeah.
He was functioning as a protesting activist that day.
Of course he
can hide
was.
behind whatever little
He met
bullshit.
them there. He met them there. He made the plans. He told them who was inside, and they acted on his will.
Yeah, he's acting like he's like Charlie Manson here. I didn't touch nobody. What are you talking about?
Now again, a stupid comment on my part, right? Obviously, Billie Eilish is going to have 24-hour security. She's a famous person, but
She ain't that famous.
What's
yeah,
that?
I agree. I'd walk right
She ain't
past
that
her.
famous.
Yeah,
Her
I agree.
brother's the smart one.
Yeah, well, but again, my point is when you're at that level, you're going to have security, but you put yourself in again a bad situation where you just look stupid. That's all. You just look stupid.
Well,
Again,
apparently it's going to cost her a little bit too because I think the I can't remember the name of the nation, but I think they hired a federal attorney who's going to go after her because she's on hollow ground or sacred ground as well.
yes, that is correct, sir.
Excellent.
That is correct. Big mistakes.
She needed to play everybody else and keep her fucking mouth shut.
And on top of that, nothing for nothing. I'm just going to play this again, but let's not care about her words. Just look at her outfit.
Honestly, don't feel like I need to say anything, but no one is illegal on stolen land.
Supposed to be a domino?
Thank you. What are you, a domino? I mean, what kind of outfit is that?
What I want to know is, does that mean that she's not breaking the law because she's on sacred ground too? Is that her way of covering her ass? I'm not doing anything illegal because I'm on sacred ground.
Here's my thing. Thank God you didn't grow up in another country where you had the opportunity to make your type of music, which Jimmy clearly said he fucking hates, which I totally understand. I actually like it at some cases. But you could have been a sex slave in another country. It's like, shut your fucking mouth about this country.
If you notice one thing, the people that are running their mouth and the people that are opposed to the America First agenda have never been out of the country. Now, some of these entertainers have, of course, but they're revered overseas. A normal blue collar 9 to 5 worker, if they went over to overseas, I saw this thing where they were protesting ICE and they were protesting deportations, and I thought to myself, and they were protesting Gaza and what was going on in Gaza, and from the river to the sea and all this other shit. And I'm like, if you went over there, you'd be dead. They would throw you off a building in a fucking heartbeat because you are a vocal political figure now. And they're lucky that it doesn't happen here because this is truly the land of the free and home of the brave. We are who we are because we have these rights and everything. And they're forgetting that those people don't have rights. And they think that they're fighting for somebody who is a terrorist organization. And it's like, stay the fuck out of stay in your own backyard and clean it up before you start telling everybody else how to live.
And how about reading your history books a little bit too? Because the moral code that was passed down in my house was the moral code that came from my grandparents and their parents, was the moral code that realized that it doesn't matter what background you are, when you see an Adolf Hitler, you stop him.
Exactly.
You don't turn around and then decades later forget that so many people have the right moral code and now you can just talk shit.
I put up a post on my Facebook the other day that caught a lot of hell. I said, if this was 40 years ago and the people in the world were here today, they would be rallying and protesting to get Adolf Hitler out of prison.
It's crazy.
Wow, John. That you know what? You're right. I never thought about that. They would be. They would be.
What was once
30 years ago, we went after Saddam Hussein and Mohammed Farah Aidid in Somalia, and they would be fighting to get them out of handcuffs.
Yeah.
what was once morally sound is now bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's insanity.
It is.
Well, to be fair, too, though, I think that the hatred for our president right now is at such a high level on that side of the fence that anything that he stands for, they're standing against, whether it's right, wrong, or
That's exactly what it is. I mean, I got to tell you, I went to Mar-a-Lago and I met the president of the United States. I was in his house, and I don't care if it's Joe Biden, Obama, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, whoever. As a Marine till the day I die, for a Marine to stand 2 feet away from the president, it was the highest honor. Was I happy with Donald Trump? Absolutely, because I think he's doing what's best for us. But I shouldn't be held against. I shouldn't be chastised and downgraded and demonized because I agree with his beliefs. As a Marine, I'm all about America first.
Mm-hmm.
But you say that and all of a sudden you're a Nazi. I don't think that word is used too freely because I don't see any of us burying hundreds of millions of people in the ground.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank you for your service, sir. I do appreciate that. And you know what? With me, people who have served this country, to me, they have more leverage than the usual American, right? Because they actually put their lives on the line, or at least, in some cases could have put their lives on the line, right? Again, when you sign that contract and whatever's happening, you do not know what's going to happen in that time, right? So if you're lucky enough not to be part of a war or be in that,
if I did, I wouldn't have joined.
I get it.
I was in Somalia twice, and first Gulf War, and Desert Shield, Desert Storm. I was in Gitmo. I'm like, I've seen and done it all, so I have a little bit more leverage than some of these other people who are just running at the mouth and they're still sleeping in their mom and dad's basement.
There you go. But
So
before
John,
go ahead.
I got to ask him then. I mean, since you've seen so many, dire situations, what do you think to yourself when you see a video of a dude like kicking out a corner panel and obstructing ice, and then the next week he's standing in front of him again, and then he's shot? Any thoughts on that whole petty drama that's been happening?
Well, apparently, and I'm just going by what I've heard, that wasn't the only situation. This guy was I want to say, and I truly believe that these fuckers are paid by somebody.
Well, there's a video the previous week. He's kicking out a Mike.
Oh yeah. That's what I mean. This guy was a known agitator. He kicked the vehicle. He's threatened and assaulted ICE officers. I think they were 100% justified in their actions because he's already proven through previous actions that he's capable of violence. Now, if you're just walking down the street and you're not there to cause a scene, then why do you have a loaded weapon with 2 magazines in your pocket?
Well, there where lies the problem with me, right? Is that being that he was carried a loaded weapon, even though he had a license to carry, you have now put somebody else's life in possible jeopardy, and they have their right to react. Just like the lady in the car. That is a weapon you're behind. Regardless if people think you could have jumped out of the way, blah, blah, blah. Now, again, there's a moral standard, John, and I'll stand by this too, right? Because, me and Jimmy are God-fearing people. There is a moral standard, right? I think the caring for human life at this point, or even animal life, is at an all-time low. No one fears God, right? No one fears or cares what they can do to other families, and we all could do better.
When it all started, here's the problem, and I said this 30 years ago, 35 years ago. It all started when we started doing this to our kids. Go in the corner and put your nose in the corner. I got my ass beat 1,000,000 times, and I deserved every one of those ass whippings and I guarantee you, probably 7 out of 10 of those things I never did again because I didn't want to get my ass whipped. If there's no consequences to your actions, and I'm not giving them excuses, I'm saying we fucked up as adults and parents by not correcting kids.
I agree. We gave them Ritalin and handed them a cell phone.
Yes.
We did.
You know,
I watched it multiple times.
oh, dude, I used to sit at tables with families, and their kids would be sitting across the table. And this happened in the music business too. When I was working on tour, they'd be at the same table and they'd be texting each other. I'm like, does that hole under your nose work?
Mm.
You know, the weird thing, and this is where I'm getting a little bit nervous now because of AI. I don't think anybody's ever watched The Terminator in that generation, because when the old saying that they use in that, when technology supersedes humanity, we're fucked.
Here's the thing, though, John. Here's the thing. You, me, Jimmy, will be long gone before that shit happens. We're in the perfect. Like, I'll be honest with you. I love AI, right? It helps me at work. It does some wonderful things.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. But when you start putting it into robots and they start doing your house cleaning and they start driving your cars and they start, sooner or later, I mean, do you remember when it first started coming out, they put two Alexas together?
Yeah.
And they created their own language and they figured out what they were saying. They're like, we can do this without these humans.
Yeah.
And they had to unplug it. That shit's gonna happen.
But let's take it one step further. Think about it this way, just about men in general, right? Again, John, I don't know if you know, you're married. Jimmy and I have been married.
No, I'm not.
Times.
I've been married twice.
Well, there you go. So you know the deal. So me and Jimmy too. So the thing is, you know, at what point where are they going to make AI women, right, that are smoking hot, never age, can cook your meals, do whatever you got to do, and they're the perfect woman? It's like, who's going to ever procreate again?
They're doing it now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at some of these, what do they call them, the expos or whatever, there's fully functional robots that will converse with you.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay. If you're on a battery, I'm not fucking you. Sorry, I like my shit too much.
I guess Real Doll is going to be put out of business with AI, huh?
You ain't kidding.
I don't know. I'll take the Real Doll any day.
Listen, but here's the deal, though, and this is truthful. All three of us will be long gone before Terminator takes an effect. But I do believe,
absolutely.
And let's not forget, like, to get off this, because we want to get into your career, and you got some hell of a story. So, but I'll leave with this too: is that people don't believe in world famine. World famine is right around the corner, man. It's like, you know, the Running Man, the Terminator, all the shit that we saw before will be the truth. There'll be the rich and there'll be the poor. There will be no middle class. It's either you're living on the street or you're fucking rich as all shit. You know what I mean?
Back to the Future, the big casino, and everybody else lived in squander. That's exactly what's going to happen.
That's it. All right, John. So, by the way, we missed you when your partner was on the show. And by the way, your partner is quite the impressive guy, man. I got to be honest with you.
That's my brother. I call him my brother. We've been together for many, many years. And if it wasn't for him and a few others, I never would have resurrected my wrestling career. And I can't thank them enough. I love those guys to death. And not just him, but everybody that we've had the pleasure to work with. I've been very, very blessed that I kind of came in the back door. You know what I mean? I started off in 1997 with Les Thatcher at the HWA training. And eventually the HWA became a training facility for WCW and the likes, like OVW kind of thing. They were, you know, there was a lot of people that trained there. And then OVW, Sean was down there with Batista and Cena and all these other, and Lesnar and all these other guys. So they had the experience. And when I first went in, I'll be honest with you, I thought because of my size, I was going to be easy. I was a shoo-in. I didn't realize at 27 years old, 25 years old, whatever the hell I was, the art of telling a story and the psychology. Those guys drilled it into me and drilled it into me and drilled it into me. And Les Thatcher, God love him, he tried, but I thought, you know, screw you, I'm big enough, I can get into this. And unfortunately, it didn't work.
You were big enough. I mean, I was just looking at some of the snapshots of you before the show. I was like, man, he's a big dude. But as big as you were, what the hell did you think to yourself when you saw Batista and Lesnar walk in?
They're not that big.
Really?
They only came up to my shoulders.
Okay.
I mean, I'm almost as big as Kevin Nash.
Well, I'm understand that. Did you need to hit the gas too, or I mean, like what was the deal back then?
I did previously. I hit it in the Marines because they were
Okay.
when I was in the Marines, they were telling me that I was out of their height and weight standards, and of course I got busted. But I took a couple cycles, and it never harmed my career, but it was one of those things, and I think that was a direct input on having to have heart
My
transplant years
question is
later.
really not really a matter of your size. My question was more towards the gas, kind of situation. Because look at Batista. I mean,
Oh,
did you think?
I'm not saying. Oh, I'm not saying I'm as big as them in
Yeah, like
stature.
did you think to yourself like, man, maybe I got to do like more roids or something because
No, I
Vince
didn't.
loved that shit.
I never thought that because my idol and the person that I wanted to wrestle the most of was Kevin Nash, and
Okay,
by the grace of God, um, he inducted me into the NWO,
love Kevin
which
Nash.
was huge for me. I mean,
Yeah,
to be recognized as not an equal but a partner
sure.
in the business that you grew up loving, and
Yeah.
to have him say, "Hey, this isn't ceremonial. You are a member of the NWO."
Wow.
That was everything to me to be
Yeah.
recognized by my idol. But I based my size and everything off of people like Nash and um, the Undertaker, Mark, and those guys because they were never really seriously ripped and jacked. They were just big,
Nash
you
get a
know.
bad does Nash get a bad rap for his in-ring work? Because at the end of the day, Nash's job was to tell a story. He wasn't out there trying to be Rey Mysterio. Look at him.
No, he actually anybody who's in the business and knows the business knows exactly what he did, and he taught me. He made it very clear to me. He goes, when I first started, I wanted to do all the Hurricane Ranas, and I wanted to do the moonsaults, and I wanted to do. He goes,
Wait, is
why,
Mike
dickhead?
awesome?
He's like, why, dickhead? He goes, you're 6'7". Why are you even leaving your feet?
Right.
And all of a sudden everything started to click. He goes, you get in, they distract the ref, beat the shit out of somebody, get out, let them win the match. That's your job. You're the heel. You're the one that everybody's going to love to hate. And that's exactly what happened.
What was your perception the first time look, you were there. I'm sure the fans want to know. Like the first time you see Lesnar, what's your perception of him once you realize what kind of athlete you are dealing with here? Because I wonder, how was he when you first saw him hit the ring? Was he already like a natural at professional wrestling? Because he
When
seemed
I
so
first
great.
met him, when I first met Brock, he was still in the OVW. I met him at a club in
Right.
Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky called at that time it was called Jillian's.
Hmm.
He walks in with a couple of guys that I had worked with and trained with, and I was like, who is this fucking beast?
Mm.
And he was a monster. I don't know what, I have not seen him in probably 30 years in person. But when I saw him at this club, he wasn't the nicest guy, but damn, he was a beast.
He doesn't like people. He's talked about that.
I've heard that that's changed a little bit. I heard
Really?
that I heard from a lot of workers that said in the very beginning he had to have a little attitude adjustment and everything. And I heard over the years he's not so much a people friendly person, but he's approachable.
Okay.
Where in the beginning he was a lot like me. I thought I knew it all, and I thought nobody was going to tell me what to do because I was big enough, and Vince McMahon or Bischoff or somebody was going to suck me up. And here's the kicker: I didn't want to be in the WWE or WWF at the time. I didn't want to be in the WCW. I wanted to be in the ECW. I wanted to work, and the only reason is because. Not a sadistic reason, but the blood and the chairs and the barbed wire matches and everything else. It made it a little bit more, I don't want to say realistic, but it was
Being
intense. It was
being
intense.
being your size, did Mike Awesome influence you a little bit? I mean, there's a large man who did a lot of aerial stuff.
Mike, well, that's ironically, that's who I watched. And I was like, I can do that. And what happened was in 98, I was working with Cody Hawk, who was part of the Five Most Wanted. He was one of the original founders with Sean. And I told Cody, I said, take me up and superplex me off the top. we're going to do this. And we kept doing it over and over. I had a little bit of a fear because we were so high up, because, not only you 4 feet up in the ring, but then you go another 4 feet up and all of a sudden you're 16 feet off the ground. And it took me a while, but one time I did it wrong and we landed on the mat and I snapped my neck.
Oh.
And that's when I decided, maybe I want to walk when I'm 30. Maybe I want to walk when I'm 40. And I want to pursuing my second love, which inevitably became my career, which was music. And I started working for some of the biggest entertainers in the world.
You did the wrestling, you did the reality. Which one was more shocking to you? Like, what the hell factor?
Reality TV. Because it was fun, but the problem is everything you do is recorded. So now there's evidence. And I was never very PC. So I'm like, you guys got to get this camera out of my face. And plus, I was drinking a lot and doing a lot of blow at the time, which was very well hidden, which is why I inevitably eventually had to have a heart transplant 3 years ago. But the damage was done. I quit drinking 15 years ago, almost 16 years now. But the damage was done. And, I hid it very well. I didn't hide the drinking, but I hid the other stuff. And in 2015, after I had gone and got sober, I came back to Cincinnati from Hawaii. I was living in Hawaii because I went into congestive heart failure for the first time in Hawaii. And they were doing an HWA reunion, and Cody and Sean asked me if I would be part of it. Well, I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know that I can do it. They're like, okay, well, here's what you can power bomb somebody through a table, and then you can get the hell out of the ring. I got to be honest with you. The minute that happened, the buzz was back, and I did it. And all of a sudden, they asked me to join the 5 Most Wanted, and through networking and doing the independent shows and everything else, like I said, I came in the back door at an age where I knew there was no contracts, but I was going to live my dream and I was going to stay on the independent level. But luckily, I got to work with some of the biggest names in the wrestling industry.
Where does the cocaine come in? Does it come in during the wrestling days, or does it?
No, not at all, not at all. It happened when I was out in 2001 with Saliva and Nickelback.
Okay,
that's when it first inevitably, or ironically. I was at an age where people stopped doing cocaine and I'm just starting.
Not a good idea.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. So, but this, the weird thing is I'm flashing back because I wrote an autobiography and it's going to be released this year. And I'm working with a major networking company to put this out in a biopic kind of a thing, possibly on Netflix or the Angel Network or one of those networks. People are really showing interest, even though the book hasn't even been released. They're just seeing the manuscript. And the book is being finished and edited. And then once it gets with a publisher and it gets released, I think a lot of things are going to happen. And the buzz is already starting. And I'm like, I'm not even finished with the book yet. I just did the manuscript and I've written the chapters, but I haven't finished them. There's some touching up that I want to do. But, in that book, I get to describe working with people like Nash and I get to work with Bobby Fulton. And, it was weird because as much as I wanted to be in the ECW, we got to work with some of those guys. And Gene Snitsky is one of my greatest friends. Still one of my greatest friends to this day.
That's not his fault.
I love him. I absolutely love him. He is such a good guy. And, I got to work with the Boogeyman. And I got to eat the worms. And everything that everybody saw, I got to do, and I got to live my dreams. And, to top it all off is when, Kevin Nash, actually 2 things topped it off. When I had my heart transplant, right before I went in, the last person to come in and see me was, you just had him on your podcast recently, was Jerry Lynn. Jerry comes in and I'm sitting there in his hospital bed and I look up, I'm like, Jerry, what are you doing here? He goes, how am I going to let you go through this and not be here? And it blew me away that I had tried so hard to get into a business that I wasn't ready for, that inevitably it all happened by happenstance. Mm-hmm. I go in the music business, I get on TV, and then everybody knew who I was, and I got to follow my dream later on in life. You know, you can't buy that kind of story.
John, let me ask you this, right? So, you said most of it started when you got into the rock portion of your life.
Mhm.
So, if anyone doesn't know about your career, you came out of the military, you decided you wanted to become a pro wrestler.
Yep.
But most, what you're most famous for, especially people our age, is when you were the bodyguard for Brett Michaels for Rock of
Michael,
Love, right?
he's still my
But,
best friend in the world.
but before we get into that, I want to talk. You mentioned your heart transplant, which is incredible. But
Hmm.
what goes through your head when you realize that your heart's going bad because of all the things that you did personally? So you're living your dream as a wrestler, you're living your dream, in this rock
No,
life, and then you look at yourself in the mirror and go, "What the fuck did I just do to myself?"
I have never been asked that question, and I'm going to tell you the best answer that I can give you. And this is the honest to God's truth from my heart, my new heart. This is what I felt. I remember telling the doctors, is this, does your family have a history of, and my doctor is one of I call him my earth angel. We have stayed in touch. We are best friends. We call each other for advice on everything, which is not normal with a doctor-patient relationship. Usually it's we do our job and you can move on and we'll treat you. Dr. Ahmad and I have become like this. I mean, but I remember telling him, and he kind of looked at me like nobody's ever been that honest with me. He goes, "Do you have hereditary?" That was a hard answer because I was adopted, so I didn't really know at the time.
Mm.
But what I will say is, I looked at him and I said, "No, doc," I said, "This is pretty much self-induced." And he goes, "What?" And I explained to him my lifestyle and what I had done, and I said, "Look, I made these decisions. I have to either face up to the consequences and try to beat this, or I can give up and say, woe is me." I had a lot of fun, a lot of fun. And if it was my time to go, so be it, but I made those decisions. I had no self-pity. I had nothing. All I did was I set goals for the future and I said, I'm going to reach those goals no matter what it takes. And and that might have been the Marines in me. It's the fight or flight complex. Instead of giving up and saying, "Oh, woe is me," I was like, "Okay, let's face this thing head on. Let's attack it. And let's beat it." And luckily, it worked because I'm living better now than I have for the first 45 years of my life.
Well, I mean, I got to be honest with you, man. Like I know medicine has progressed tremendously. All right, I've
Yes,
had
it
my
has.
own health issues, but a heart transplant, that's like a still to this day is a hit or miss thing between all the rejection medicine and everything else. I mean, you've
Yep.
definitely got to feel like a blessed man.
Oh, I went into rejection twice so far, and one of the first things they told me is you're likely going to go into rejection, but that is not a death sentence. We can beat this. There's medicines that we can. And I went into rejection twice, and both times they overloaded me with prednisone, which is a steroid, and they shut down my immune system, so because my body was fighting the heart, and then little by little they build you back up. And I got to tell you, I still haven't met the donor family. I haven't even written because the UNOS ask you to wait at least a year. After a year, I was still recovering, and I was like, if I'm not normal, they lost a loved one. I'm not going to put this on them yet. Let's see where this goes. After 2 years, I had finally started living again, and the third year is coming up on March 17th of this year, and I already have the letter written. I'm going to send it to my transplant coordinator because now I'm ready. I psychologically, was
So wait,
so
I don't want to cut you
scared.
off because I think this is really important. So you do know who the donor is, right?
No, I do not.
You
I
do
do not.
not.
They ask you to wait a year before you even write a letter and contact the family. After a year, I wasn't ready because I was still recovering.
But wait a minute, but you know who the family that the donor came from, though.
Nope, I don't know anything. All I know is
Okay.
that the donor was 22 years old when he passed away.
Does someone have the information to give you
Yes,
so that after? Okay,
yes.
that's
What
what
it
we're
is,
getting
it's
at.
it's a mutual thing where I will write a letter and I'll send it to the original transplant coordinator. They'll contact that family and send them the letter. And if they choose to respond,
Right.
Right,
then we can have the meeting.
right.
Strange question, though.
Mhm.
Even though you don't know who the donor is, you don't know who the family is. Do you feel in your body like someone else is living with you?
Your dreams. Yes. And I asked one of the doctors that I said, Doc, I said, is it possible for a donor to transfer memories or feelings or emotions or likes or anything to the recipient. And even though it's not ever been scientifically proven, there's a lot of people who get transplants, hearts, lungs, kidneys, and all of a sudden their eating styles change or their interests change. And I can tell you the one place where it has happened is I've had some dreams, and this is why I want to write the letter now, because I'm more cognitive and I know what's going on. I've had some dreams and I'm like, that's not me. I never did that. That wasn't me. So it's going to be interesting to see if and when I meet this family, if they say, no, that was whatever his name was. I call him my donor angel. I'm like, that let's say his name was Tony. No, that was Tony. You didn't, and because I've had some very vivid, imaginative dreams, and I'm like, that I didn't do that. That wasn't me. But they're not dreams like you would normally have. They're like memories. And I'm like, I didn't do that. So it's going to be very interesting to see if some of those come into fruition.
It's amazing. So you got a hell of a story, man. You've got I
believe in that stuff. I believe that deja vu is genetic memory transfer. Like when you feel like you've been someplace already, but you know you haven't. You are inheriting the memories of your genetics.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
I know that's what you're talking about. In this case, it's an organ transplant that is catapulting genetic memory.
When it first happened, is about 6 months. 6 months after the transplant.
Right now.
I had my transplant in Vanderbilt in Nashville, and a few years before I lived in Nashville. Okay.
Right.
Truth be told, because I was sober then, because a lot of my drinking and drug use was in Nashville, I was afraid to leave the hospital. And I had to get a psychiatrist and a doctor to tell me, they're like, no, we need you to. And they gave me this idea. They're like, here's what I want you to do. We want you to go back to the places that you remember most about partying. Just sit outside and be like, you know what? Fuck you. I beat you. You didn't beat me. I beat you.
Yep.
I got to tell you, when I was driving through Nashville after that, I stopped at places and I'm like, I've never been here. But I knew what it looked like inside. I knew all this shit. And I'm like, I've never been here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, is this real? Is this really happening? Like, is this memories or transduced memories or transferred memories from the donor? Because some of these things I'm looking at and I'm like, I've never been in there, but I knew exactly what was inside. And I walked in and I'm looking and I'm like, how did I know? It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
But it is. It's like deja vu. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, my term is genetic memory transfer, but I should probably trademark that immediately.
So John, I want to jump into. Can you hear me? You got something going on there?
Yeah.
All right. I want to jump into, how do you transition to the Rock of Love? Like, you're a wrestler, then you kind of were you a bodyguard for some bands at some point, right?
Well, it started off, I started working for the band Rat, and it was a sheer accident. What happened was I became friends. When I first got out of the Marines, I was working in a live music venue, Annie's, in Cincinnati, Ohio. And a lot of these bands that were starting to come back, Rat, Cinderella, Tesla, Night Ranger's always been out there.
What year?
But that was in 96, 96,
Okay.
96, late 96, early 97. Vince Neil, all these guys, they were coming through and they were playing because there was a resurgence of rock and roll and the 80s bands. And thank God, because it gave me my career. But I started to befriend these guys, and one of the first bands that I befriended and I became like family with was the band Cinderella. So I'd go down to Nashville and I'd visit with them and we'd hang out, and every time they came to town, I'd show up at their shows, and it was almost like instinct. I would control their meet and greets. I would step in. I would help out as much as I could, walk them to the bus. And the guys from Rat, they took to it. So Bobby Blotzer, what I did was I was like, if I want this career, I got to bug the shit out of people. I'm not taking no for an answer. So I would call Fred Curry in Cinderella, or I would call Bobby Blotzer, or I would call Stephen Piercy, or I would call whoever I met. And I call so much that I wanted them every time they picked up the phone. They're like, "Oh shit, is this John?" You know. So eventually, Bobby Blotzer invited me to a show in Cleveland, Ohio. So I drove up with a friend of mine from Cincinnati, and Bobby said, "Hey, I need to go back to the hotel. Can you guys drive me?" Well, this car was small enough. The other guy that I was with was 7 foot tall, so nobody was sitting in the back seat. So I said, "Look, take him back to the hotel." And Bobby said, "Just ride the bus back." Okay. You're trusting me enough to get on the bus. Well, a few of my friends were part of the crew, Joe Anthony and Drew G and Carly and Shaggy and a couple other guys. So I'm hanging out with them, drinking beers and fucking off and trying to pick up women because I tried to make people believe that I was working with the band. Well, I got on the bus with them and we're driving. And by this time, we're all half in the bag. I mean, we're fucked up. And I looked at these guys. I said, "Guys," I said, "where is this fucking hotel?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "I'm supposed to meet Bobby and the band back at the hotel." They're like, "Dude, we're in Detroit." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "We don't go back to the hotels. We go to the next venue." So I immediately called my friend Larry Moran, who was the Rat's tour manager. I said, "Larry, we got a problem." I said, "I'm in Detroit." He goes, "Don't worry, we'll deal with it." So I called my friend Lance and I said, "Lance, this is about 3 or 4 in the morning." I said, "I'm in Detroit." He goes, "No, you're not. You're in Cleveland." I said, "No, dickhead, I'm in Detroit." I said, "I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do." And he goes, and Rat was playing in Cincinnati 2 weeks later. Everyone knew how bad that I wanted into this business. So Steven got together with Warren, Bobby, and Robbie Crane and the rest of them. And he said, "Listen, guys, here's the deal. With your approval, we're going to let him ride it out to Cincinnati, see if he really wants to do this." So I asked Lance, "What do I do?" And he goes, and Lance had been a promoter in Cincinnati for a lot of these bands and bigger bands. And he said, "Let me give you some advice." He goes, "If you want this and you really want to pursue this," he goes, "be the first one off the bus and be the last one off the bus and always be doing something productive." So I took his advice, and I think it was like 3 days later, the band pulled me up and they're like, "Listen, we need to talk." And they all had serious faces. And I'm like, "Oh God, I screwed up. What did I do wrong?" And they're like, "Do you want a job?" I was like, "For real, for real?" And I was working in a jail at the time, a juvenile detention facility. And I said, "Like, for real, for real?" They're like, "You're in. We love you. You're done. We want you to work with us." And I called my boss at the jail and I said, "Look, I'm never coming back. Bye. I'll mail you my uniforms." And we went on and we continued and we toured with Poison on the 99 tour. And at the end of 99, Rat was supposed to go to Japan. There were some band conflicts and everything fell apart and we didn't go to Japan. But at the same time, I reached out to the guys in Poison and I said, "Look, I really enjoyed you." I'd met Brett and Ricky and Cece throughout the tour. And there was not a second. There was no question. I said, I'd like to come work with you guys. And on Memorial Day weekend of 2000, I met them in Baltimore, and I started my career. And then from there, I went to Saliva and Kid Rock, and the Stray Cats and Nickelback, and
you were bodyguarding, right?
I was doing all personal. Not with Kid Rock. I wasn't doing security. There was another guy, Little Bear, who handled his security. But I was like, I don't want to say his shadow. I was the number 2 because I was Bobby's personal assistant. I handled all of his wardrobe, all of his personal effects, got him to where he needed to be, got all the media information from the tour manager and the production manager. And I said, "I'll get him here. This is my job." And it all started because he had 3 sold out shows in Detroit. And I got the phone call. They said, "If you can get through Detroit, you got this job." Well, the first day there, in Detroit, we go to Bobby's house and he's having a big party for the crew, which automatically turned me on because he had so much respect for his crew that he threw him a huge party. He's like, "You want a beer?" I said, "No, I got to work tomorrow." And he goes, "Oh, you're not going to fit in. That ain't going to work." So I think I drank like 1 or 2 beers. And then I went back to the hotel because I knew I had an early morning. Well, the next morning I got to the venue and I took everything that he owned and laid it out, created an itemized list with serial numbers of his jewelry, sunglasses, makes, models, everything. And I had a tablet, one of those writing tablets, and it was about half full of everything. And everything was laid out in the dressing room. Rock walks in and he says, "What the hell?" I said, "Dude, I need another hour. I can't, you can't come in here yet." So he went to catering and did sound check and everything else. By the time he came back in, I had everything put away, and he goes, "Holy shit." And everything was in order. And I made it look like a Marine Corps wall locker, like an inspection.
Right.
And he goes, "Holy shit." And he goes, "I need a wife beater." I said, "Third drawer down, all the way in the back, folded nicely." I said, "And please, if you put it back, please put it back the same way." And I said, "Here's an itemized list of all your jewelry, serial numbers, makes, models, sunglasses, all your hats, your beaver skin hats and everything." I said, "I have everything itemized. I know a total count and everything. This is yours." And I made a copy for myself, which I still have. And thank God I did that, because he looked at it and he goes, he got on the radio, he goes, "Shakes, he's hired. We don't need 3 days. He's done. This is it." And I got to tell you, my life immediately changed, because he is the absolute, other than Brett. But, I have a career with Brett. Brett's like my brother. But as far as employers, at that time, he was the absolute best person that you could work for, because he appreciated not only what you do, but he took care of us and he paid us very well.
Well,
Very well.
I don't want to pry, but I want to pry. What does an assistant like yourself make for like
$3,000 a week?
Rock?
$3,000 a week plus per diems.
Wow.
So, I mean, that was the most money I ever made in my life. And
$3,000 a week is nothing to scoff at.
Hell no. And the fact that
plus free food, free lodging, right? All that's free, right?
And then you get per diems. And I traveled with Rock. The best thing about working for Rock was we'd have 3 days on and 4 days off. I had the option of I'd go back to Clarkston, Michigan, if there was something coming up, Super Bowl or whatever. And he had a separate house from his house, which was his studio and guest house. I'd stay in that guest house. That was my house. I had a room in the back, and he would have people over. And I mean, people would be everywhere. And it was so cool, because I'd hear him say, "Hey, shut up. John's sleeping in the back." Mm-hmm. Or he called me Johnny. He's like, "Johnny, he's the only person that ever called me Johnny." He's like, he goes, "Johnny's sleeping in the back. Keep it down. Keep out of this hallway. Stay out here." And I'm like, the fact that he cared that much, he could have been like, "Fuck him." But there was a really weird thing that happened a few years ago, right before I had my major heart attack. I was invited to Dave Chappelle's house because a friend of mine was working for him. He was his assistant and his manager, Jake. So I go up to Dave's. I go up to a show, and I'm sitting there, and Jake goes, "Oh, by the way, Bobby's going to be here." I said, "Bobby who?" Because I never called him Bobby. I called him Boss. "Hey, Boss, what's up?" And he goes, "Kid Rock." And I was like, "Get the fuck out of here." And I hadn't talked to Bobby in a couple of years. And this SUV pulls up, and he was engaged at the time. He and his fiance jump out of the car, and he comes running over, "Johnny!" And he gives me this giant hug. And his fiance at the time was telling me, she goes, "He never stops talking about you." And I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Is it a good thing or a bad thing?" She goes, "He tells everybody that Brett Michaels stole you from him, and you were the best personal assistant that he ever had." And I'm like, "I'll come back."
Can I ask you, like, how often did you get laid with these guys? Like, were you the gatekeeper?
A lot.
So was it like, "Hey, you got to give me a blowjob if you want to meet Kid Rock"? Was it like that type of thing?
Sometimes, but I will tell you this much.
Wait a minute, hold on. I just got to ask. I don't mean to be this asshole interrupted, but
no, you can ask me anything, dude.
How does this conversation take place? Some hot girl comes out, she wants to meet Kid Rock, and you go,
"No,
listen, blow me first, and then I'll give you a pass."
It depends on who I was working with. With Poison, I would get a stack of passes, and Bobby, CC, Ricky, and Brett. I knew after working with them a little bit what their tastes were. Not so much CC. CC was on his own, but Bobby, Ricky, and Brett. I would go out and I would take this stack of passes, and I'd go through the crowd, and I'd find hot chicks. Chicks.
This all started with Kiss. They used to do this back in the 70s.
Yep.
Go on.
Yep. And I, and sometimes we'd be in the quick change or something, and I don't know how these guys would do it, but they're like, "John, 11th row center, blonde, big tits, go get her." And I'm like, I'd come out of the quick change, and I'd look, I'm like, "Got her," and I go out, and I mean,
John, there was none of this like, "John, fat chick, purple hair."
No, No, the fat chicks were mine. I had to jump on grenade.
Okay. All right. Preference.
No, that wasn't a preference. That was just job security. I had to keep the friends. I had to keep the friends busy. Although one of them was a preference because I was so fucked up out of my mind. I walked to this. This is a story that circled the music business.
My God, what have I done?
Oh my God, dude! This circled everybody in the music business heard about this one because there were shirts made of it. I picked up this girl. Oh shit!
Uh-oh, we lost him, Jimmy.
He's
just
frozen.
in the.
He's frozen
right
in time. What a pose!
Damn.
Tell him to come in and come out like we always do. Go in and go out. Come back.
Dude, could you imagine being in John's position? Like that guy, like
Mike.
The funny thing about women, Jimmy, is to be with either someone rich or to be someone famous. They have no morals. They'll do whatever it takes to be there.
Do you realize what was going through my mind as he's telling this story? Don't forget, once upon a time, my band got to the front door of Polydor. I could have had a guy like John, like my weed. Where's my weed? It's in the third drawer, and he's got it itemized. You know what I mean? I'd be like, "Where's my weed, John?" And John's like, "Oh, it's right here." I'd be like, "Wow, I almost got to that. Damn it."
Yeah, well, yeah, dude. Could you imagine?
It was right there at the front door. All I needed was a John.
But again, what do you think of the fact about women will do anything to be with a famous man?
Mike, you don't even have to. Can I just talk candid? You don't even have to be famous. I remember the first time I ever played in a club, and it was my first gig was in Sundance. Sundance was a big club on Long Island. It was my first gig. You know, in school that I wasn't the most popular guy. I was a back hall kid, but I wasn't exactly like the ladies' man in high school. I got off the stage. It was like multiple choice. I didn't even have to say a word, Mike. What? You know? I mean, am I surprised at hearing this? Not at all. What I think is comforting, I like hearing that Kid Rock is a good person who appreciates people who work for him.
Well, all I kept thinking about is this guy comes out of the Marines and he decides, big guy, and he goes, I'm just going to be a wrestler. And how lucky is he didn't stay a wrestler? I mean, look, obviously his drugging and his drinking gave him issues, but it gave him issues. But again, to be out of wrestling, doing independent shit, to be touring with rock bands at the level of Rat and fucking Kid Rock.
Well, what does it tell you? What does it tell you when you hear and we've had this happen more than once with our guests. Some of them just have fate on their side. He walked into the wrestling business through circumstance. Then he walked into the fucking band business through circumstance. You and I scratch and claw. Oh my God! Like the 20 years I was in the clubs, scratching and clawing, and the fate of some people. It's like, wow, truly blessed. You know.
I'll tell you, man. It's someone might say, "Oh, who is this guy?" Right? If again, he's older like we are, right? So when he comes back on, we'll talk about when he goes on Rock of Love, and now it makes more sense, right? Because he was actually bodyguarding for Poison, and I'm assuming when they came up with this idea for Michaels, he was like, "Hey, I'm going to bring Big John, and we'll find out the story." But for the younger fan, or whatever, it's again, if they didn't wrestle in the NWA back then, or the WWE or WCCW, it's like, who are these guys? But the reality of it, some of these guys let me tell you something. Touring with Rat, Poison, whatever, has got to be just as exciting, if not more exciting, a Kid Rock, than wrestling for the NWA back in 1983. You know what I mean?
Well, it's really what I thought was amazing was look, he had a job. It's not a glorious sounding job, but I'm sure it was a decent paying job with decent benefits. I would hope he was working in a jail. He had a good job, right? And then you get offered to go with Rat or the bands he's mentioning. He didn't even hesitate. And I found that funny that, you can have a state job. There's probably a state jail. You got a state job, and it doesn't even. It was worth it more to invest in the business of Rat and because how long has Rat been? He said it was 1997. Rat's been around for almost 2 decades at that point. They broke
By the
in the
way,
early
Rat
80s.
Rat does get a bad reputation, dude. I liked Rat, to be honest
Rat
with
was
you.
a good band. I liked Rat. I never
Yeah,
disliked
but you know, in
Rat.
the annals of hair metal rock, they're like the trash of hair metal rock. That's the way I
Really?
see. That's the way I see band. Like when they talk to like, I'm no Rat. You know what I mean? Like Rat was
Why?
fucking terrible.
Rat was actually good. I think that they bordered on the glam metal, but they never stepped too fully into it. They were still fairly rocking. They're an interesting band from that time period. They're not obviously a Maiden or Metallica or anything like that. Let's not get crazy, but I liked them. I thought Rat was pretty cool. I had the first couple of albums from what I remember,
Yeah,
and the Chick in the
abs-
Lay It Down video. Hello.
It's so funny. What do you call it? Quiet. I was in the car with my wife the other day, and we listened to like '80s channel, whatever,
Yeah.
and Quiet Riot came on,
Okay.
and they Quiet Riot was around for a fairly long time before they finally hit it with "Come On, Feel the Noise," right?
Yeah, and they didn't even want to record it. They tried to botch it a couple of times on purpose in the studio, so the producer would just quit. And then he made them finally make a take of it, and turned out to be their
Here's
biggest
something
hit.
pretty cool, dude. Mitch says George Napolitano was CC DeVille's teacher. How fucking cool is that?
Really?
I didn't even know Napolitano was a teacher. I actually thought he took photographers for full time.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, you know how I feel about the glam metal bands that came later on in the late '80s. That was not my speed.
Right.
You know, even Def Leppard got involved with that. I think that was more so because of the accident to the poor drummer, because then the drums had to be
Well,
electronic.
I tried to explain to my wife, right? You had to have a certain look because that was the MTV era, right? So
Yeah.
it was like you couldn't, you had to look cool, you had to look glammed out, you had to look cool. The
Well, that's
videos
what
had
was
to be
being
cool.
shopped. That
What's
was what
that?
was being shopped.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the image that what the kids were being presented
Well,
with.
the videos were selling the music. The music wasn't selling the music anymore. The videos were selling the music.
The videos were definitely becoming a much more important part of it. Absolutely.
I mean, listen, as well rounded as you've been throughout your music career, right?
Okay.
Would we have known April Wine if it wasn't for MTV? Remember
I
April
don't.
Wine?
I don't think so, and I think April Wine was an excellent band. They had minimal radio play in our
Yeah,
parts.
right.
The video "Just Between You and Me" and "Sign of the Gypsy Queen" were played constantly on MTV, and that's how we became aware of them.
Yeah, and that's when. Welcome back, John. We're just in the middle of talking about what
Sorry,
you've
guys, my
accomplished.
phone went dead right in the middle of me telling that story.
But we were
That was
just
a
talking.
sign. Maybe I shouldn't tell that story.
No, we're going to continue on with it because it was. But we were saying that here you are. You come from out of the Marines. You're like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. Not that it didn't work out, but you ended up going this way. And it's funny. Like so, we're a popular show, and we bring you on. And let's be fair, unless you're not widely known. In fact, for people our age, you're more widely known for Rock of Love than you would be
Right.
your professional wrestling. That's a fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Oh,
for
yeah.
the usual wrestling fan, they might be saying, "Who's Big John? I've never heard of him." But your life compared to, and we got some fans that are on there, like the president was saying, your life, like put your life as just for the hell of it. We'll say Tommy Rich in Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Yep.
Your life is is so much more exciting than, as much as we love Tommy
long
Rich, and we're
haul.
not knocking Tommy, right? You have lived it. I mean, think about it. Tommy Rich got a blowjob from Missy Hyatt. That's according. That was her first blowjob was Tommy Rich. John, you're getting blowjobs every fucking night from every type of woman, fat, skinny, Chinese, white, whatever. You've got the sushi going on, man. You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to tell you, and I'm not being egotistical. I mean, I consider this a blessing. I've dated fat chicks. I've dated
Thank
skinny
you, God.
chicks. Yeah, exactly. I've been with fat. I don't mean to say fat because I was fat as fuck at one time. I've been with heavier girls. I've been with skinny girls. I've been with porn stars. I've been with actresses. I am the Forrest Gump of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay,
I've seen and done it all.
Time out. Time out. Which porn stars? Time to throw.
That I
Time to
can't
know.
tell you. That I
Oh,
can't tell
come
you because
on.
they're
Oh, you're
married now, and
killing
there's no.
me.
I cannot release that information. One of
Holy
I
cheddar
can't.
Jameson,
I will
Batman.
not. I will not. And I always promise because
Oh, man.
we are still good friends. And I'm not. I cannot say. I can't. I
Photos at
won't.
10,
How
folks.
about
Photos at 10.
actresses? Can you name any actresses?
Um,
Nope.
Yes, he can. He's gonna. I'm excited now.
I'm
I gotta
trying to
hear
think
this
if they're still no, because the two that I slept with are still pretty
they're still
viable.
alive.
So I got to be very careful.
shit. Mom always said.
Here's the weird thing. I always made sure that one thing I didn't do was when I was in relationships, I was married prior to wrestling or anything, but I was involved with my daughter's mother, and I have an ex-wife now, Lonnie, who I never, ever, ever, God is my witness, I never cheated on. And anybody who's worked with me in the music business will tell you, when I was in a relationship, I didn't fuck around. But when I was not in those relationships, I sure as hell made up for it.
And you probably made sure those relationships didn't work at some point. You probably would go.
No,
you know what,
actually, there's one of them that I'm still really, really good friends with. It's my daughter's mother. I love her to death. I always will. She, and then not only because she's my daughter's mother, but because she put up with a lot. Like I said, I was drinking a lot and I was partying, and my career became priority, and she put up with a lot. And even after my daughter was born, she would not. She limited my access to my daughter because of my drinking and my demeanor and who I was. I will tell you, Rock of Love was the inevitable end of our relationship, and that makes sense because it put her in a very bad situation. And I respect the hell out of her now, and we talk about it, and I apologize profusely, but not only because of the Rock of Love, but because of who I was then. And I'm not that person. What she had her doubts when I went to I moved to Utah when I met my second wife. When I went to Utah, I went there specifically to get the hell away from everybody and to disappear. And I met my ex-wife Lonnie, and I woke up in jail one morning, and I was like, "That's it, I'm done." That was my rock bottom, if you will. I was like, I can't. This life's over. And my daughter's mother had her doubts. She's like, "You're not going to quit drinking. It's too much of who you are." And I haven't had, knock on wood, I haven't had a touch of alcohol since then. So
congratulations.
that was in 2010. So.
All right, well, let's segue into Rock of Love. Before we go there, though, I just got to ask you one question. You're not going to name the porn stars. You're not going to name the actresses.
I can't. It's not that I don't want to.
It's fine.
Not that I don't want to, because you guys would shit, but I can't. Can
I at least get a phone number or something off the air?
Well, but here's my question.
I guarantee they're on the internet.
At least answer this. You're finally going to lay down with how many porn stars are these
Two.
actresses? Okay, and the actresses with 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. What are we talking?
Mike.
Two major ones. One that's.
Let's stick with the major ones. So you're gonna lay down with the major one. Are you just like, man, this wasn't anything? It just sucked. This wasn't any good. Or was it like this shit rocked?
Dude, I lasted like 2 minutes. They're probably saying I sucked.
Wow.
Well, you can't blame yourself.
And that's one of the reasons I don't want to say the names, because I don't want the truth coming out. It's like, man, he was fucking horrible. I knew how to eat pussy, but I couldn't fuck with his shit. It lasted about 2 minutes.
Big John, quick finish. Excellent.
That's exactly it.
John, yeah, you know what? When that happens, John had to go to a sec. He had to go to eat, right? Because
I'm going to use some wrestling. I'm going to use some wrestling lingo now. I'd start fucking and be like, "Okay, I'm taking it home."
We're taking this home. She's like, "What?"
We just started. I'm like, "I'm done. I need a towel."
He looks at you. He's like, "What are you, green?"
Oh my God.
The one girl who was the porn star, I don't even know if she's still viable, but I know everybody knows who she is. I was laying in bed and I'm like, there is no fucking way this is happening.
Yeah.
She was fucked up. I was fucked up. And I'm like, I even asked her, I said, "You know who you look like?" I mean, I hooked up with her, not realizing who the fuck. I said, "You know who you look like?" And she said it. And I'm like, holy shit, it is you.
I just saw you in the bathroom last night.
The
Exactly. I was
worst
like,
part
you know
is,
how
John,
many
at that
times I've
moment,
jerked off to you?
John, at that moment, like, you know what, I'm done. That's it.
Oh,
It's over.
dude, I was like, my career could end
Oh.
tonight, and I'd be happy.
My God.
All right. So again, you ended up
I know they
being.
weren't happy. They weren't happy, but I was.
That's all that matters, John. It's all about our satisfaction.
Oh boy.
You end up on becoming one of the most popular reality series on VH1, Rock of Love with Bret
Thank
Michaels from
God.
Poison. You were known as Big John. You always had the scarf on, which is,
Yep.
I said to my wife today, I said, you know, Rock of Love? I said, she's like, yeah. I go, we're interviewing, Big John from the show. She goes, really? I'm like, yeah, it's amazing how things come around. But how does Rock of Love start? Like, what does VH1 come to Bret? He comes to you?
Yeah.
Like, how does it?
Long story short, what happened was Bret, his resurgence we were still touring with Poison, and in 2004, he decided he wanted to go solo. He wanted to pursue a solo career. At the time, I was Ricky Rocket, the drummer, his personal assistant. Bret and I had a relationship and a friendship, but he saw something in me that I hadn't even seen yet. And he said, look, when we go out, I was working with a girl named Jana Elias, who is still Bret's right-hand person. I mean, without Jana, the machine would break. She's the heart and soul of the operation. But he said, listen, I'm going to start this solo career. And he goes, I would really want you to consider going out with me and you and Jana running this operation. Now, inevitably, Jana took over because Rock of Love and everything took me in a different direction. Because now all of a sudden, instead of behind the scenes, I was in front of the camera. But VH1 came to Bret because of the popularity and the success of these shows, and they told him they were contemplating doing a reality show, and they told him the gist of it. He was working on it, and Bret being Bret and the relationship that I had with Bret, he said, "Look, John and I have a chemistry. I'm not doing this without John." He goes, this is my guy. You're not going to bring in some Hollywood stand-in that I don't know, and it's not going to be, and it's going to tank. John and I have a chemistry. You let us do what we do, and we're going to make this as real as we know it. We're going to live our life. And that's how it started. And, initially, I think they bought like 4 or 5 or 6 episodes. And when we got to our first day of shooting, Mark Cronin, who had directed Road Rules and all these other ones, said, look, I got 25 girls. I got to get rid of 5 of them. And all of a sudden, the light bulbs went off above me and Bret's head. And I said, don't you dare. You want this to be real? Let me do what I do. And I came out and I told them, I said, I'll get rid of them. So hence when I let the first 5 go, I said, little did they know that one of them I already knew because she dated Tommy Lee. Or she fucked around with Tommy Lee. And I wasn't about to cross that line. That's one thing you don't do in the music and the wrestling business. You don't shit where you eat.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, she fucking
especially with Tommy Lee, right?
And she was hot as hell. She was hot as hell. And Bret kind of chewed my ass about that one because he's like, that's my decision. And I'm like, yeah, but we had to get rid of 5. And I explained it. He goes, good call. He goes, because we don't need that kind of fucking controversy.
Yeah,
when I came back in, I come out and I said,
fight.
ladies, as you know, in the real world, not everybody gets backstage. And this is the real world. So you, and you, everybody thought that, well, actually, I take it back. I picked the 5 already. And I sent the other girls in the house. The other girls are already pissed. Thinking, oh, these are the VIPs. No, I said, ladies, as you know, in reality, not everyone gets backstage. That there's a fee to that. You want to stay in the house? Let's talk. But I said, your bags are at the end of the driveway. You're going home. Your tour ends here. And that's where it all started. That tour ends here kind of mantra.
Wow.
And Bret and I had discussed this. We're like, how do we end each show? And Bret came up with the idea, but I was the first one to say it. But I said, your tour ends here. And then lo and behold, a few hours later, there's a banging at the door, and it's Tiffany, and we won't get into how she got back in the house, but
But wait a minute. So wait, I got to ask you, what
didn't get in the house?
wasn't that show pretty much bullshit? Like, he wasn't really fooling around with these girls, right?
He banged everyone.
I'll just say he wasn't looking for love.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
got
say
you.
he wasn't fooling around with them, but
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Well,
I
good,
mean,
because I thought he was like married at the time, or like
no,
behind
he
the
wasn't
scenes.
married. He wasn't married.
Okay,
Christy, who I love, that's his wife now. I love her
right.
to death. They had an on again, off again relationship. He went to her and said, "Look, this has been offered to me," and they mutually agreed. Okay, you do this, but you're not looking for love. We're
Right.
together. You know, I mean,
Gotcha.
this might work. And they had already had daughters, so you know they were definitely um, together as parents. But as far as their relationship was on again, off again, and luckily everything worked out. They're married now, and you know, Brett's still my best friend in the world, and Christy, I absolutely love her. And the girls, Rain and Georgia, are you know, they're my surrogate goddaughters, if you
John,
will.
knowing Brett as well as you do, can you tell me something? How, this is going to sound silly, how grounded can Brett Michaels even be? My God, Mike, are you hearing this? He's got the bus. They're all lined up. Sorry, your tour is over. There's like 25 women, and he's got probably 25 million in the world just waiting to kill to get to him. How do you stay
That's
grounded?
that's
How is
why Brett. That is why Brett and Poison are still here 40 years later.
Mm.
They are so. We used to do meet and greets on the Poison tours, where each band member had a separate meet and greet, a fan club. Somehow, once in a while, they would all merge together. Our meet and greets would last longer than the shows. They are so grounded that they will sit and talk to their fans. A couple of times we did it as a big, mass, chaotic meet and greet where everybody got to meet everybody, and then the separation started. But the reason that they're here 40 years later is because they're grounded, because they're reachable. They're still rock stars, and they still live that persona, but they never, not one of them has ever forgotten where they came from. And that's what I love about them, and that's what their fans love, because they'll sit and talk with them. And even out, you know, Brett and I will go out to dinner. Would go out to dinner. I haven't seen Brett in a while, but you know, like now he calls me. He says, "Hey, dude, I'm thinking about coming down to Florida for the Super Bowl. Come on, dude, you can stay at my house."
Mm.
You know, and he was going to come down for October for Halloween. He goes, "What are you doing for Halloween?" And unfortunately, a mutual friend of ours passed away, and he went back and he was spending some time with his family because they had some other stuff they had to do, so he didn't make it down. But one of our plans was to go to this place here. It's called the Twisted Fork. There's usually 1,000 people, whatever, and it was Halloween. He goes, "Let's go. Let's just walk in." And as time has gone on, he's become very, very I don't want to say modest isn't the right word. He's very humble. He's very one thing I will give him is he's very appreciative of the career that he's had. And he attributes that to the fans, the people that work for him, the people that make it happen. And I've been around a lot of rock stars, and he's one of the few that I know to this day that never got an attitude and put himself on a pedestal where he wasn't unreachable.
Look, you know, we asked your partner this last time he was on the show, and again, you know, I got to ask, right? Because you know, again,
I already know what it is, and I'll tell
you
you.
know, all right,
We said it on the show.
is it a wig?
He's got the best extensions that you can buy in Europe.
Is it a wig?
It's not a wig; it's extensions.
So there's no top going on there,
No,
like
no, it's tied into his hair. I mean,
okay,
he does have extensions. We made that very well known on the show.
Is that
We made
expensive?
always wearing the bandana, no matter what's going on.
Sean shouldn't have said this, but he did. There's two reasons. One is because the hair's tied in, but two, in 1984 he wrecked his Ferrari, in a very, very bad wreck, and it's busted his whole face up. And he does it for cosmetic reasons. I'm just going to say that.
I got it.
There's some very visible signs of that car wreck.
Would you think that he gets laid with the bandana on, though? Like he doesn't take it off? When
I don't know. I never watched him.
Yeah, like Jimmy, I always thought about like Hogan. Like
That's one
Hulk
line
Hogan.
I would not cross. I don't want to see my brother's dick. I'm sorry.
That's great. Oh my God. Solomon, you've been around with a lot of bands.
Mhm.
Well, let me ask you this. I wanted to ask you this first too. Here you are, ultimate male, right? Marine, serves his country. Again, thank you for your service. You come out, professional wrestler, tough guy. You're doing this band stuff. But at some point, as being someone's personal assistant, is it like, ugh, you know, I don't want to have to do these shit for these guys. You know what I
Never,
mean?
never.
Really? Wow.
I took so much pride in my work because, like Kid Rock, Brett, Brian Setzer, the Stray Cats, all these guys, when they went out into the visible world, the reason they look good and the reason they look like rock stars is because of my job. If I let them go out and they look like shit, then what am I doing? You know what I mean? Now the security, that was a whole different story because there was a time we were in. I keep saying Poughkeepsie, but it wasn't Poughkeepsie. We were up in upstate New York, and this was right after the Rock of Love, and a truck pulled up and shot the back window out of the bus. First thing I did was I was in the club, and at that time we were playing clubs and theaters and small venues because it was the first solo tour, the second solo tour, and I went running in the bus and I grabbed Brett and I said, "Listen, stand here." He stood in the shower and he never understood that, and the reason I did that is the Marine kicked in on me because the shower was lined with lead. So I'm like, "You stay here, you'll be safe." I don't think. Well, with Rat, I did. I had to go hands on a couple of times, and that did not end well. With Poison, I think I maybe did once or twice. My whole thing, and the reason I became so successful in the music business, and I'm not tooting my own horn by any means. A lot of artists that I worked with and people that worked around us and were other bands will say this too. One of the things that made me so successful in the business was you got too many guys out there that are bodyguards, and I hate that fucking word. I hate it. They're assistants, they're executive protection, whatever you want to call it. And they suit up like they're going into combat. They got gloves on, they got vests, they got this and that. And I'm like, guys, what are you doing? Well, if shit kicks off, I said, shit shouldn't kick off. If you do your job, you'll stop it before it even happens.
Right.
And I was always very appreciative of the fans because I learned from Brett and Ricky and Bobby very early on, and the guys from Rat. Stephen Piercy is still one of my closest friends, and Blotzer. If you treat these people right, they'll keep coming back, which carried over into wrestling. I was, one of the things that bothered me when I was a kid, and once I got into wrestling and it became a secondary career, is I watched these guys who would be in their gimmick in the ring, and it worked, and they were brilliant, and they were great. But as a kid, I would watch, the Road Warriors, or I would watch Andre the Giant, or somebody, whoever was a heel at the time, and they come out and kids would come running up and they're like, "Oh my God, can I get a picture? Get the fuck away from me, you little bastard." I'm like, these are the guys that are going to buy merch in a few years. These are the guys that are going to keep your career going. And watching that, I always said that if I ever made it into a position where I had that platform, there's a difference between the gimmick, and there's a difference between you as a person. You as a person is a friend of mine, Joe Anthony, who I worked with in the music business. He's gone now. One of the things that he taught me very early on, and a guy named Patrick Whitley, who was Kiss's production manager for years, and Ozzy and other people. And I know you've heard the saying, it was you attract more bees with honey than vinegar.
Right.
But if you're a dick around that, if this is the way you want to be remembered and you want your career to be based on you being a dick, then go ahead, be a dick. But people will respect you more if you're approachable and you're polite. And I'll never forget, I was wearing a shirt when I was with Rat. It said, "Fuck you." And Patrick Whitley walked up. He goes, "Is that the way you want to be remembered?" And I was like, "What's that mean?" He goes, "That shirt." He goes, "If you're smart, you will lose that shirt and never wear it again because you have a long way to go and you're going to have a hell of a career. But just like chess, it's like playing chess.
Right.
You've got to forever, if you come off let's put it in our world, like wrestling. If you come off like a dick, and that's what they expect, they're never going to try to approach you, and your career's never going to progress. You're always going to be a dick."
You know what, though? I think you also have this attitude because you were very fortunate. The people that you worked for appreciated you and treated
Very
you
much
well.
so.
And if
Very
they
much
did
so.
not do this, now I've recently read some horror stories about that wonderful Ellen DeGeneres. She's an entertainer.
Mhm.
Her assistants weren't even allowed to look at her in the eye. If you looked her in the eye when she walked down the hallway, you were in trouble. What kind of that would have ruined you? Okay, like that
I would
kind
have
of
quit.
thing.
I
Yeah,
would have quit in
that
a
that
heartbeat
yeah. So you
because
definitely
because the one thing that and this goes back to the Marine Corps. You know, I had friends and fellow Marines that were senior enlisted, and I watched them, and unless it was absolutely 100% warranted, they treated their Marines themselves. If you want something done, you can be a dick about it, and people are going to hesitate. If you appreciate them and you show them that what they do, even if it's wrong, is appreciated for the attempt. Now, in the Marines, it's a different story. You do something wrong, people die. But there's a way to correctively criticize somebody and constructively criticize them without demeaning them. I have never once worked for an artist or entertainer that has demeaned me, ever. We've had our arguments, we've had our battles, but we've always come to an agreement, and it's always been based on professionalism. Hey, you do a good job, but this could have been done better. One of the things that's in my book, just so you know, my book is titled Built for That. Um, one of the things that's in my book was my very first tour with Poison. I went out with Ricky Rocket to a strip club. And I hooked up with one of the girls, and I left the strip club and left Ricky at the club. And the next morning, I get on the bus. Everybody's like, "What happened last night?" And I'm thinking, "Hell yeah, dude, I got laid. This is cool." And the first thing they said was, "The next time that ever happens, we're going to ask you one question, window or aisle. You never leave your principal." And from that moment on, and they could have done it a whole lot differently. They could have said, "Fuck you, you fucked up, you're gone."
right.
But they gave me constructive criticism. They told me what I did wrong. Not that getting laid was wrong, but the fact that I left Ricky out in the public, being the person that he is and the visibility that he had at the time,
Yeah, no good. Yeah,
that was no good. Yeah,
no
exactly.
good.
And I learned from that mistake, and they made it constructive, and they made it an educational tool, and I
Right.
never made that mistake again.
Yeah, Ellen would have had you castrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have
From
changed
what I
your
hear,
opinion.
from what you just said, probably I would have lost my,
Yeah.
it's really weird. Everybody knew that I was making an effort. Mistakes are definitely going to be made. That's the nature of the business. Wrestling, real world, 9 to 5, whatever. Mistakes are made. Do you learn from those mistakes, or do you let it ruin your career and let it dictate what it's going to do to you?
How real is reality television? Because, like, let me draw the picture for you. I'll never forget it too. I was working security, overnight shift. Sometimes it's just you and the television or your own mind, which is more entertaining, quite honestly. But there it was, Rock of Love. Now, I'll be constructive because I know that Brett is a friend of yours, and I'm a musician, and I've always respected Poison's success. I like Every Rose Has Its Thorn. I think it's a great song. In general, though, I'm kind of like, and I'm going to quote Ronnie James Dio to not put all the hate on me, but Poison is one of the poster boys for the bands that killed heavy metal in the late '80s, according to Ronnie. I'm going with Ronnie here.
I have to
On
disagree with Ronnie on that one because
okay,
they're the ones that brought it back and kept it alive.
okay, fair enough. Coming from the Metallica, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath mindset, there's definitely a different approach in the metal approach of Poison. So let me at least
Sure.
say that much, okay? So then the years go by, and now I'm working overnight, and I see Rock of Love, and reality television is happening, and I'm going, oh boy, I am not a fan. I'm being honest of reality television. So I'm
Yep.
asking, how real? And kudos to Brett for once again reinventing himself. The man has remained valid and for decades now. So let me get that out
Sure.
of the way. But how
Sure.
real is reality television? Because to me,
Well,
it doesn't feel
I'll break
real.
it down to you. Here's how it went. You get a rough draft of what needs to be accomplished. In other shows, they would have a script. This is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to say. This. Brett went into it 100%, and he and I had these conversations over and over. You can't script us. We have to be raw. We have to be real. Now you have a schedule of things that you want done, let us get there on our own. And when the girls were eliminated, that was 100% Brett's choice. And I had some feedback in some of those. He and I would sit and he's like, "What do you think about so and so?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that it's not going to work." And and I got corrected a couple of times. On the very first season, there was Lacey, and Lacey was the redheaded girl who was the animal rights activist, and she was a complete bitch on the show. I said from the very beginning.
Remember all of this shit. Watching
Oh yeah, I said
on.
from the very beginning. I said this girl's got to go, and Brett corrected me. He goes, "We're not compatible." He goes, "But goddamn, dude, she's good for this show. We got to keep her."
There you go.
And I was like, "What are you doing?" Because I went into it with the concept that he was really looking for a chick.
Right.
I didn't understand, just like wrestling in the very beginning, I didn't understand the psychology and the storytelling.
Yeah.
And she turned out to be one of the biggest sensations of that first season. And we brought her back in the second and third season. And I remember somebody threw a birthday party at the Roxy in Hollywood in 2010, I think it was, something like that. Somewhere. No, it was like 2008. And it was my birthday party along with Miggs from Cold Chamber and a guy named Happen and Harry, who was a Hollywood icon. Everybody knew who Happen and Harry was. He was a local musician who played, and they did a 3-way birthday party at the Roxy. So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my name on the fucking Roxy, and I'm going, "How did I get here?" I'm like, "I'm just this kid from Norwood, Ohio. How did this happen?" And I go up and we're having this party and various artists are playing throughout the night. And I get this tap on my shoulder and I turn around and I see Lacey. And I'm like, "Oh God, I despise that woman." We sat and talked for probably 3 hours. And she to this day is one of the biggest sweethearts I ever met. She goes, "John, if I knew you were a wrestler, I would have told you that I was trying to be a heel." And she goes, "And it worked." And I was like, "Son of a bitch, you did good," because even I bought the shit.
John, I got to ask you, Jess from,
I don't know whatever happened to her. I don't. We were really good friends after the first season. We talked. I talked to her mom and dad.
But wasn't she someone famous's like granddaughter or something like that? If I remember right, wasn't she?
No, I think she was a clothing designer.
Okay.
I think she was trying to use the show as a platform. I don't think she ever expected to win, but she wanted some visibility, and she wound up being a genuine sweetheart. And unfortunately, after the show, we did that reunion show, and she said, "Look, you made the wrong decision. You should have picked Heather." Because it turns out that she was actually dating somebody at the time. And I was flabbergasted because she was such a sweetheart and I loved her. She was a great person.
Dude, Heather, I forgot about. She really loved Brett, didn't she?
She did. She really liked him. To get his name tattooed on her neck, that said a lot.
Oh boy.
Jimmy, I'm such a mark for this shit, man.
Now she's gone into a career where she's a very, very successful real estate agent in high-end housing in Ohio. I guess she goes Vegas, Ohio, California, but she's really, really done well for herself.
Did she cover the tattoo?
I don't know. I haven't seen Heather. I did a reality television convention in Vegas a couple of years after the final show. And ironically, the one person who's known so much for being a dick in reality television was Johnny Fairplay, who I love to death. I wish I could talk to him again. We hung out for a while. And he goes, "Dude, you surpassed me by kicking those girls off right away." He goes, "You became the fucking villain." And I'm like, no, dude, you are. Everybody knows who you are. He goes, "You don't realize how many people know who you are, do you?" I'm like, and I remember one of the assistant directors, Matt Odgers, he came up to me at the very last day of filming. He goes, "You ready for this?" And I said, "Ready for what?" He goes, "Your whole life's about to change." I said, "I don't know about that." I said, "I'm pretty grounded." Yeah, it changed.
How much did you get paid per episode for Rock of Love?
a lot.
Damn. And you get residuals still, like when they show
No,
it?
I do not. I signed off on the residuals because once again I was green. It was the first time in front of a camera, and I didn't know anything about
Yeah,
it.
but I think VH1 and MTV did that kind of stuff, right? They were smart enough not like to try to
Well,
stop
we
that
didn't.
with women,
Well,
right?
the company that we worked for was 51 Minds, and I could have asked for them, I'm sure, but I didn't know enough about the business. I was just excited because I was taking that one step further up on the ladder, and now people were going to know who I was. So you know, in all fairness, the residuals and everything go to Brett and the girl. I don't know if the girls get them or not. I think in all fairness, they deserve those rights and those credits. I played my part, but the greatest thing is my part was my reality job. You know what I mean? So I wasn't doing anything different. But what they did was they took my salary and multiplied it by a couple. And
So Jimmy, if we got to do quick math, he's probably doing 12,000 an episode, 15,000. Jimmy, could you imagine? Could you imagine this, man?
No,
What
I'm
a
sitting in a
life!
fucking gatehouse watching this, going, "What is Brett Michaels doing here?" And he's getting paid what? I give
Yep.
up, guys. It's been nice. I'll see you later. This loser's signing off. I'm out of here. Oh my god,
John, I got to tell you,
unbelievable. Hey,
it's been an honor to have you on the show, and I got your partner who reached out to us a couple of weeks ago. Another great guy. You guys are fantastic. Is there anywhere where people? You got your book coming out? Anywhere else?
I
People
haven't.
can see?
I'm in the process of working with a media company right now. I'll get back with you on that because we're going to set up an entire web page based on the book,
Awesome.
just to build a brand and an email following. Because what we're going to do is we're going to do a 10 podcast episode, in dealing specifically with the book, key points of the book, so people start to get an idea. This book, I got to tell you, I've written it like 9 times already, and every time that I go back. It's not immersive enough. I'm trying to take people on a ride, and I'm trying to make people. And I think what I've come up with now, and everyone seems to be happy, is you read this book. I've got the sites, everything from my very first memories being told that I was adopted to where I am now after the heart transplant. And I've shown it to a few people that are close to me that I trust enough. I've had tears. I've had obnoxious laughing. And I'm like, what did you like the most? Or like, you took me on a journey. I was looking through your eyes and I felt what you were seeing. And I'm like, that's what I wanted from the beginning. And it's taken me like 9 or 10 times, but I finally got it. And two of the people that I'm very, very close with now, my career has gone 360. I'm really good friends with Pope Leo's brother, and I let his wife Deb, and I travel with them as well because we're such good friends. But he's got his own protective detail. But we have become such close friends that we just like spending time together. And they've asked me to join them on some of their ventures. That's who took me to Mar-a-Lago because the president invited him down for the Christmas party, and I was dumbfounded at some of the people. I mean, I'm sitting at a table with Greta Van Susteren and Stephen A. Smith, and I'm like, I'm just this kid from Norwood, Ohio. How the fuck am I at the White House or at Mar-a-Lago? But it was very humbling. But I let them read it, and the reaction that they had was Deb, Lou's wife. She was like, "Oh my God!" She goes, "I finally understand why you are who you are, because I'm very social. I'm very reachable. I'm very open about my lifestyle because I want people to understand no matter what." Walt Disney was always my ultimate idol. And I loved Walt Disney and I loved his vision and I loved his dreams. But one of the things that he always said was, if you believe it, you'll dream it. And that's why I have this tattoo. If you look at it one way, it says believe. And you look at it this way, it says dream. His saying was, if you believe it, you'll dream it, and dreams really do come true. And that's the exact existence of my career. I believed that I could do it, and I never took no for an answer, and I dreamed that it would happen, and I did not stop until that dream was reached.
I love it. I love it.
So this book is going to be something, it's called Built for This. It's going to be coming out this year in 2026, and there's already talk, like I said, probably late 2026, early 2027, of making this a documentary biopic, kind of like a Behind the Music, where we're going to tell the story and we're going to do flashbacks and go on location and show where I went to high school, show where I fucked up in high school when I was in the state champ. I was supposed to be in the state championship game. We were the number 2 team in the nation, and I got ruled ineligible because of my grade point average, because my mind was always somewhere else. It was in music, it was in the Marines, it was professional wrestling. I always had dreams of doing that, and schoolwork didn't mean shit to me. I could get there without the schoolwork, and how it happened, I don't know, other than the fact that I dreamed it would happen and I believed that it would happen and I made it happen because I wouldn't take no for an answer. But when this book comes out, I think a lot of people are going to be really surprised as to how I became who I am and how the alter ego Big John came about, because of early on dealing with the reality of life.
Well, Big John, I'm going to tell you, what an incredible lifestyle, life story. And God bless you came out on the other end of it. So God has other plans that we don't know about.
Yes, he does. Yes,
and
he does.
And truly an honor.
My mom kept asking me for years when she got sick. She's like, I was raised and born and went to a Catholic high school, Catholic grade school and everything. And when I got in the music business, my faith went out the window. My career was more important and money was more important than everything. My mom asked me for many, many years. She's like, get your faith back. It's the most important thing you could ever have. When I went through my heart transplant and I died twice, I realized all that fame, all that fortune, all that money, that doesn't mean shit. It really, it's easy to say, but until somebody goes through something like that, you realize the material stuff doesn't mean anything. I could be the richest man in the graveyard, but there's no ATM.
Well, let's leave it with this then. And this is another difficult question. You died twice. Did you see the other side?
Yes, I did. And I really want to talk about that sometime, because that'll blow your mind.
Amazing.
That will absolutely blow your mind. John, and I remember everything about it.
Well, we will talk about it. And thank you, sir. What an incredible human being.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time. I really do. I had a blast, and I look forward to doing this again.
Absolutely. Thanks, and thank you again. We know the circumstances you're doing this under, and you're truly a
yeah, I got to fly out tomorrow and go bury my brother.
God bless you, sir.
All right, guys.
Thanks, John. Thanks.
Love you. I'll see you soon.
Talk to you soon. What do you think there, Jimmy, man? One hell of a story, right?
Yeah. On the day his brother passed away this morning. Obviously, he just mentioned that. So, yeah, great guy. Stands for all the right things from I can gather. And I can't get past that. I was at the front door of Polydor. I could have had somebody like John, sorting my weed and where did my pack of Camels go? And, I would have been nice, just like Kid Rock. I would have been like, thank you. I appreciate you. Damn it. So close yet so far, Mike.
Listen, man, this is the way I look at it. God has plans, right? God had plans. I remind everybody, Big John Christopher, the show was brought to you by FanDuel, sponsor of Monte and the Pharaoh, where we've got the Super Bowl this Sunday, man. This year, Seattle Seahawks are giving 4.5 to our hated enemies, the New England Patriots. What are you thinking, Jimmy? We've been pretty hot this whole playoff series. FanDuel must love us right now.
Yeah, do I vote with my brain or do I educate my guess with my heart? I want Sam to win. I hate the Patriots. I can't stand the Patriots. Let's just hope the Patriots get exposed for the easy schedule they had all year, and Bo Nix getting hurt and a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah, I'm tainted. I can't stand them. Come on, Patriots.
Too. But you know what? Being a Jet fan, I also hate Sam Darnold.
I don't hate Sam Darnold. I know. You know what? You're the exception to the Jet fan, because most of us never hated Sam Darnold at all.
I will tell you what's a little annoying to me. We talk all the time, so I give you credit. But I see a lot of people coming out of the woodwork going, "All right, Sam Darnold was going to be great." Shut up. Stop it.
No, I always felt that he had all the makings of what he's currently at. So.
If you didn't know it, you were watching the Howard Stern of pro wrestling, Monte and the Pharaoh. What the fuck? This thing's all
What the hell is that?
What is that? That's the wrong thing.
Some really bad spelling. That's what happens when you let AI do.
No, you know what? I grabbed the wrong one because whatever. But anyway, you are watching the Howard Stern of pro wrestling, Monte the Pharaoh. I want to remind anybody tomorrow, me and Jimmy return on a Friday night, where it's just me and Jimmy speaking about WrestleMania 42, dissected CM Punk and Roman Reigns, the women's division, Gunther. Got a lot to talk about, but I got to tell you, wrestling may be coming back in our blood a little bit, because that promo from Punk and Reigns
Yeah.
Those are two high-level professionals, Jimmy.
Yes, they are. They're the ones that make us care. So I might care for a few moments here. That's what it did for me. That's for sure.
And I totally understand that for
Yeah.
sure. We could also talk about the attack on Braun Breaker at the Royal Rumble. Who's under the woolly hood? I have my ideas, but we'll
All right.
find out. And right after that, we've got Chris Wildcat Harris will be in studio speaking to the Howard Stern of Pro Wrestling. That's this Friday. That's tomorrow, everybody. So join us tomorrow. We got two hot deals. And then next week, we've got the return of Man Mountain Rock, Mad Max, or Max Payne, I'm sorry.
Nice.
Really good friend of ours, Max Payne.
Yeah.
What do you think of Jimmy?
Oh, he was a blast. I can't believe that's years ago already, but that was back in the indie music TV days when he came in.
You know, Jimmy and I were going to do a podcast on Jimmy How to Work. So I went on, and who's their co-host was Mad Max. And he just could not stop talking about how much he loves Jimmy and loved the show and couldn't wait to come back on. So we thought great opportunity to finally reconnect with old Mad Max, Man Mountain Rock. And then at 9 o'clock, we've got Michelle James, the former wife of Matt Bourne. We had Tegan Bourne on, was it like beginning of this year, right, Jimmy?
I guess. Stands a time of confusing me, but I know it's fairly recent.
So Michelle's going to come on. Again, she was the ex-wife of Matt Bourne, but the lady has so much love for Matt, and she's got stories that Tegan doesn't know. So that's an exclusive. She reached out to the channel and said, look, you did such a wonderful job with my daughter. I'm asking you to have this opportunity to talk about Matt and push for his Hall of Fame induction. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, come on, way overdue. Look, I can't get past when, Queen Charmel is in. Stop it already. What, Matt Bourne's not in? That's a joke. That's a joke.
Well, I can't. I'm not going to argue with you on that, man.
Just
I'm not
stop.
gonna argue with
Is this wrestling or what is this? I mean, and who wrestled it? Come on, the guy was a wrestler's wrestler. Anyway.
Very excited for that. So, Jimmy, I'll see you in for Shakes of a Lamb's Tail. You want to send
Shakes of a lamb's tail, and you make fun of me when I say mint? You're funny.
Well, come on, mint. Stop.
Shakes of a lamb's tail. I haven't heard that since Thanksgiving recess back in high school. Interesting. All right. Well,
Two shakes of a lamb's
tails. And check our groupies at the door. Make sure that they've got their backstage pass for next week, Mike.
We will, Jimmy. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh. And until Freaky Friday, later.
Couple things I want to cover, Jimmy.
Yeah.
500 level has now improved on the M&P code. Now go to MP30 for 30% off. Jimmy, I got to tell you something, right? I was at the beach again, 500 level. If you guys haven't looked at the shirts, right, go to the website. It's incredible. And I got to be honest, right? So it was a little chilly today. I brought the dogs to the beach. I was off work for the Jewish
cold
holidays,
today.
right?
It's cold.
It wasn't cold,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I have from 500 level, I have a Roman Reigns sweatshirt. Now, usually sweatshirts are not always the nicest fabric, unless I'm into really nice fabric because I just don't like things up against my skin. So
Yeah.
usually I'll get thinner type of shirts, but this is a heavy sweatshirt. The fabric, unbelievable. And you're going to get a deal at 30% off, Jimmy. I mean, my God, it's a no-brainer, guys. I am telling you, once you get one shirt from them, you'll get 50. I
they're so
guarantee it.
comfortable.
And they've got
so
all the sports.
comfortable.
Yeah, dude, tell me what you think of it, Jimmy.
They're so comfortable. I got to get a long sleeve now. I'm telling you, I got to, because it was chilly today, especially for a guy who's been in Panama City Beach the last 2 years. It was chilly today, and I love the material. It's so silky. Is that the right word for it? I don't know.
No, absolutely, absolutely, dude.
It's so comfortable. So yeah, I got to get myself some leveled long sleeves. That's for sure. 30%.
And again,
off,
it
no-brainer.
doesn't. They got plenty of wrestling stuff. They got baseball stuff. They've got football. They got everything, dude. MMA. They got it all, man. And I'm telling you, it's very high quality. Again, 500 level code MP30, 30% off. So if a T-shirt costs you $20, what's 30% off on $20, dude?
It's enough. 10 plus another 20% tacked on top. Not much. It's a steal. It's a steal.
I agree. I want to remind everybody too, the